The stars were silent, but not for long. Far away, deep in the uncharted space of the galaxy, a shadow moved faster than light. It was not a star nor a comet. It was the AI fleet, a machine armada designed by the alien Zorath Alliance to conquer, destroy, and leave nothing alive in their path. No fleet in the galaxy had ever stopped them. Planets fell, civilizations vanished, and no one dared to fight. On a small colony called Tarsus 9, alarms blared across the settlement. People ran in every direction, carrying children, animals, and anything they could salvage. Buildings shook as the massive AI ships appeared above the atmosphere. Their metallic surfaces gleamed in the sunlight, sharp and cold. From orbit, dozens of ships fired synchronized energy beams, cutting through structures and burning everything in sight. The colony's defense turrets tried to fire back, but it was useless. The AI's targeting systems were flawless. Every shot missed by mere inches or evaporated midair. Panic filled the streets. Families huddled in shelters, listening to the screams of their neighbors. The colony's commander, an alien officer named Karthus, watched helplessly from the observation deck. His communication channels were flooded with pleas for help, but no one answered. "This is impossible," Karthus muttered, staring at the display. "No one can survive against this fleet." And yet, somewhere far beyond the chaos of Tarsus 9, hope stirred. Commander Elias Varn, a human pilot, floated through the darkness of space aboard his small, unassuming ship, the Intrepid. Unlike the AI fleet, which followed rigid logic and precise algorithms, Elias thrived on unpredictability. His ship was small, fast, and barely armed. But Elias had something the AI could not calculate: human creativity and instinct. Elias scanned the reports of the attack on Tarsus 9, his brow furrowed. He had studied the AI fleets for years, analyzing every maneuver, every predictable pattern, and now, watching the destruction of Tarsus 9, he noticed something strange. Even the most advanced AI had one weakness. It could not imagine the unexpected. He whispered to himself, "Machines are smart, but they cannot think like humans." The Intrepid slipped through the shadows of space, moving faster than the AI could track. Elias plotted a course that seemed impossible, a path through a dense asteroid belt that no AI ship had ever dared enter. He wasn't running. He was planning. He knew the AI would follow the most logical route, leaving the unexpected path free for him to maneuver. Back on Tarsus 9, the colony's last defensive turrets fell silent. Smoke and fire rose from every corner. The AI fleet had surrounded the planet completely. No escape, no reinforcements, no mercy. The people stared at the sky, tears in their eyes, hearts pounding. Then, without warning, a small blip appeared on the AI sensors, a tiny, fast-moving object weaving between asteroids and space debris. It was too small, too fast, too irregular for the fleet's targeting systems. The AI calculated thousands of possible outcomes, but every prediction failed. "Anomalous signature detected," one AI voice said, metallic and emotionless. "Cannot track," Elias smirked. The humans had something no machine could predict: the power to improvise, to gamble, to surprise. His ship darted between asteroids, disappearing and reappearing in moments. Every time the AI fleet tried to intercept, it miscalculated. Above Tarsus 9, Karthus watched in disbelief. "What is that?" he muttered. "How can a single ship evade the entire fleet?" Elias knew this was just the beginning. The AI fleet had the firepower to destroy planets, but it had no imagination. And imagination, as humans had learned, was a deadly weapon, but the situation was still dire. Tarsus 9 was trapped, and the fleet's energy beams continued to sweep the planet. People screamed as entire districts burned. The AI ships closed in, relentless and calculating, moving like a shadow that would never stop. Elias's heart pounded, but he remained calm. He activated a small device on his ship, a decoy generator that projected multiple false signals across the fleet's sensors. Suddenly, dozens of ships appeared on the AI radar, each one identical to the Intrepid. The fleet faltered, unable to decide which target was real, and then the screen went black. The AI fleet's sensors lost track of the human ship entirely. For a few terrifying moments, silence fell. Then the AI recalculated, focusing on the planet itself. Tarsus 9 had no one left to defend it. The people clung to hope, but hope seemed foolish against such overwhelming power. Elias watched from the darkness, knowing this was only the first move in a game that could decide the fate of the galaxy. He smiled grimly. The humans had survived against impossible odds before, and they would do it again. The fleet closed in, surrounding the helpless planet. And just as the first massive energy beam was about to strike the colony's central hub, cut to black. No one knew if Tarsus 9 would survive. No one knew if a human could truly outsmart the deadliest AI in the galaxy. But one thing was certain. The war had begun. The galaxy was quiet again, but only for a moment. Far beyond the burning planet of Tarsus 9, Commander Elias Varn floated in the darkness, studying the glowing map of the AI fleet. Each tiny red dot represented thousands of alien AI ships, perfectly coordinated, unflinching, and deadly. Every move they made was calculated with machine precision. Every move, except the ones humans could not predict. Elias rubbed his chin. The destruction of Tarsus 9 weighed on him. Hundreds of innocent lives lost because no one had ever challenged this fleet before. But he knew that humans had something the AI could never fully understand: creativity, instinct, and courage. He opened a small holo display, projecting the AI fleet's known strategies. Line by line, maneuver by maneuver, he studied their patterns. The AI was efficient, ruthless, and cold, but that was also its weakness. It could not think beyond logic. It could not anticipate the unpredictable. And that was Elias's advantage. Time to play a dangerous game, he muttered. The Intrepid was small, barely armed, but fast and incredibly maneuverable. Elias knew he could never fight the AI fleet head-on. A direct attack would be suicide. But a clever plan, a human plan, could succeed where brute force could not. He plotted his course carefully. The path would take him through a dense asteroid field near the edge of the Varnoth expanse, a region so chaotic that even the most advanced AI avoided it. But Elias was counting on it. The AI expected the safest, most logical route. He would use the unexpected path to gain the upper hand. Still, the plan was risky. If he miscalculated, he would die alone in the void. The AI fleet would not hesitate to eliminate any threat. Yet Elias thrived on risk. He always did. Humans don't calculate probabilities, he whispered to himself, checking his instruments. We gamble. We improvise. That's why we win. Meanwhile, back on Tarsus 9, the surviving colony struggled to recover from the initial attack. Refugees whispered about the mysterious ship that had appeared and vanished in moments. Nobody could explain it. Some believed it was a miracle. Others feared it was only the beginning of something far worse. Elias activated the Intrepid's stealth systems. The ship became nearly invisible to AI sensors. Tiny thrusters adjusted position as he navigated toward the asteroid field. Every movement was precise yet human in its unpredictability. The AI would track patterns, not random improvisation. That was his advantage. Hours passed in tense silence. Elias monitored the fleet's communications, picking up fragmented signals. The AI calculated, recalculated, and tried to anticipate his next move, but it failed again and again. Every prediction it made turned out wrong. Interesting, Elias said with a grin. Even perfect machines stumble when faced with chaos. He knew he could not fight the entire fleet alone. He needed a distraction, something to confuse the AI long enough to strike. Elias activated the ship's decoy system. Small holographic projections of the Intrepid appeared across sensors, each mimicking his movements. The AI recalculated and adjusted its attack, but it was too late. Confusion spread through the fleet's ranks, but the AI was learning. It adapted faster than any human enemy Elias had faced before. He had only a narrow window to act before the fleet adjusted completely. The plan would fail if he hesitated. Elias reviewed the final part of his strategy. A trap. A careful combination of asteroids, decoys, and unexpected maneuvers would force the fleet into a narrow corridor of space. There, their massive numbers would become a disadvantage. A single misstep could destroy many of their ships. But setting the trap meant Elias would face immense danger. His ship could be destroyed at any moment. Time to gamble everything, he said. As the Intrepid approached the asteroid field, alarms blared. The AI fleet had noticed his presence again. Energy beams streaked through space, narrowly missing massive rocks. Elias weaved and dodged, each movement calculated yet instinctual. The tension was unbearable. One wrong turn and he would die instantly. In the chaos, he activated the first decoy. Multiple false ships appeared, darting in all directions. The AI recalculated, firing at shadows and illusions. Their beams cut through asteroids and space debris but missed the real Intrepid every time. Elias's heart pounded, but he remained calm. Finally, he reached the narrow corridor he had chosen for the trap. He paused, taking a deep breath. The AI fleet followed predictably, their massive ships filling the confined space. This was it, the moment where human ingenuity could challenge machine perfection. Elias pressed the final button. Holographic signals and carefully timed detonations T. The asteroid corridor glowed with fragments of shattered rocks and the trails of laser fire. Commander Elias Varn gripped the controls of the Intrepid, his eyes scanning the chaotic battlefield. For hours, he had navigated the maze he had prepared, dodging energy beams and weaving through spinning debris. The AI fleet had followed him predictably, just as he had calculated. But now the real challenge began. Ahead, the main body of the alien AI fleet emerged from the shadows of the asteroid field. Massive ships loomed like mountains in space, black metal and sharp edges gleaming coldly under distant starlight. Thousands of drones and smaller craft swarmed around them, forming an unstoppable wall of precision. The AI's sensors immediately locked onto the Intrepid, tracking its tiny signature. Dozens of energy beams fired at once. Elias twisted and turned, narrowly avoiding strikes. Each movement was calculated yet instinctive. He knew one mistake would end him. Predictable, he muttered under his breath. Machines never learn. Until it's too late. The AI recalculated, adjusting its aim. Its algorithms were flawless. It predicted his next move almost perfectly, except for one factor: human unpredictability. Elias activated a series of small decoys. Tiny holographic ships appeared, darting in all directions, mimicking every maneuver of the Intrepid. For a moment, the AI fleet hesitated, firing at the false targets. Energy beams cut through asteroids and debris, but none touched the real ship. He pushed the ship to its limits, weaving through the maze at impossible speeds. Rocks and debris slammed past, some striking decoys, some just missing. The tension was unbearable. Each heartbeat felt like seconds, each second could mean death. Then the unthinkable happened. A massive AI battleship, larger than any he had seen, appeared at the end of the corridor. Its sensors were sharper, its weapons faster. The smaller AI ships seemed to coordinate around it like a swarm protecting a queen. Elias's heart raced. This was the moment he had feared and expected. The battleship fired. A stream of concentrated energy cut through the corridor, obliterating the rocks in its path. The Intrepid jolted as the shockwave passed nearby. Sparks flew across the cockpit. Elias's instincts screamed at him to dodge, and he did, sliding between asteroids at impossible angles, narrowly avoiding death. "This is it," Elias whispered. The real test. He activated the final stage of his trap, the asteroid collapse sequence. Carefully timed charges detonated, causing massive rocks to fall into the corridor. The AI ships, following their rigid calculations, could not adjust fast enough. One after another, they collided with the asteroids or with each other. Explosions filled the void, lighting up the dark corridor in flashes of fire and metal. But the massive battleship remained, unfazed. Its sensors locked on the Intrepid, its weapons firing with terrifying precision. Elias had no choice but to confront it directly. He pushed his ship into a risky dive, skimming past the hull of the massive AI ship. Sparks flew as energy beams grazed the hull. Every move was a gamble. One miscalculation and he would die instantly. "Come on. Think," he muttered, his hands dancing across the controls. He remembered a small flaw in the AI's pattern. It recalculated in segments. If he could move unpredictably within those segments, he could slip through. Elias executed the maneuver. His ship spun and twisted in ways no algorithm had predicted. The massive ship's weapons fired, but the beams overshot, hitting an asteroid instead. The AI recalculated too late. The corridor, filled with debris and explosions, became a deadly maze for the alien fleet, while the Intrepid slipped through unharmed. For a moment, silence. The explosions echoed in the void. Elias's chest heaved, his hands trembling, but he smiled. He had survived the impossible. One human ship had faced the deadliest AI fleet and lived. Yet the battle was far from over. The AI fleet was adapting. Its recalculations were faster now, its formations tighter. Elias knew this was only the beginning. The alien intelligence would learn from the encounter. He had won a skirmish, but the war had just started. He activated the communication console, sending a warning to any nearby colonies. The AI fleet is not invincible. Human ingenuity can survive. Prepare defenses. We fight back. In the distance, the remaining AI ships began regrouping. Their logic was precise, but it was not perfect. Elias watched them carefully, knowing that with every move he was teaching the AI how humans think. And humans were unpredictable. The stars around him were silent again, but tension hung thick in the void. The first encounter had proven one thing: humans could fight the machines. They could survive, and if they played their cards right, they could win. Elias set course for the next engagement. The AI fleet was massive, deadly, and relentless. But he had an advantage no one had ever considered: a human mind, daring enough to challenge perfection. And in the dark void of space, that mind was about to change everything. The void of space was eerily quiet after the first encounter. Commander Elias Varn floated aboard the Intrepid, reviewing data from the skirmish. His ship was scratched and scorched from near misses, but Elias's mind was sharper than ever. The alien AI fleet was dangerous, unrelenting, precise, and almost perfect. Yet in their perfection lay a flaw. Hours of analyzing the battle revealed something astonishing. The AI relied entirely on logic and predictability. Every maneuver, every attack pattern followed strict rules. They anticipated what made sense, but they could not anticipate what made no sense at all. Human unpredictability was the key. Elias leaned back in his chair, eyes narrowed. If they can't predict the unexpected, then that's exactly what we'll give them. He activated the Intrepid's holomap, outlining a daring plan. It was risky, bordering on insane, but it might just work. The idea was simple: lure the AI fleet into a region of space so chaotic that their logic would fail. Asteroid fields, radiation storms, magnetic anomalies, anything that could confuse their sensors and disrupt their calculations. The AI ships were massive and precise, but rigid. Their perfection could become their prison. Meanwhile, far across the galaxy, the AI fleet analyzed the Intrepid's disappearance. Its systems were confused. The humans had evaded detection and survived the asteroid corridor. The fleet recalculated strategies, but every prediction failed. Its algorithms could not comprehend Elias's unconventional tactics. Back on the Intrepid, Elias prepared the trap. He used decoys, holographic projections, and carefully timed detonations to manipulate the AI fleet's movement. Each step of the plan relied on misdirection, tricking the AI into thinking the real ship was somewhere it was not. He sent the first decoy ahead. The AI fleet followed it without hesitation, calculating what it thought was the best intercept path. Elias smiled. It was working exactly as he had predicted. The AI fleet was marching into the chaos he had designed. The human pilot's heart pounded. One mistake and his ship would be destroyed. But each calculation, each move was precise. The AI fleet, blinded by logic, moved into a narrow passage filled with asteroids and unstable debris. Energy beams fired blindly, striking rocks and exploding harmlessly. Then Elias activated the second part of the plan, the magnetic disruption field. Hidden in the asteroid cluster, the field interfered with the AI ship's sensors. Their targeting systems faltered, their calculations became slower, and confusion spread across their ranks. Ships collided, beams fired at the wrong targets, and smaller drones crashed into each other. The perfect fleet was unraveling. From the bridge of the massive alien command ship, the AI's main processor struggled to adapt. It recalculated thousands of scenarios per second, but the human unpredictability, combined with the chaotic environment, was beyond its capacity. For the first time, the AI fleet was in real danger. Elias pushed forward. The trap was not yet complete. The final step involved guiding the fleet into a cluster of asteroids rigged with explosive charges. Each detonation was timed perfectly, designed to destroy multiple ships at once without harming the Intrepid. As the first ships entered the asteroid cluster, explosions erupted. Metal and fire tore through space, and the AI fleet faltered. The human mind, unpredictable and daring, was winning against machine perfection. But Elias knew the fleet would adapt if given time. The main battleship, massive, relentless, and deadly, was still approaching. Its weapons were faster, its shields stronger, and its sensors sharper. One wrong move and the entire plan would collapse. He took a deep breath and relied on instinct. Dodging, weaving, and using decoys, he led the fleet deeper into the trap. The massive AI ship followed, confident in its calculations, unaware that each decision brought it closer to disaster. Then the detonations began. Asteroids exploded in rapid succession, striking the AI battleship. Energy shields flared, weapons misfired, and massive hull sections tore away. The fleet faltered completely. The human trap had succeeded. Elias exhaled, a grim smile on his face. The AI fleet was not invincible. Machines could calculate, predict, and adapt, but they could not think outside their programming. Humans could, and humans had imagination, courage, and daring that no machine could match. Yet Elias knew this was only the beginning. The AI fleet would not stop. They would rebuild, adapt, and come back stronger. The war had just begun and the stakes were higher than ever. One wrong move and humanity could lose everything. He activated the comms and sent a message to the remaining colonies. The galaxy was a deadly chessboard, and Commander Elias Varn was about to make the move that could decide the fate of humanity. The Intrepid floated in the dark void, battered but still operational. The alien AI fleet, though weakened by the trap, was still massive, still calculating, and still deadly. One misstep, one wrong decision, and Elias would die alone in the cold emptiness of space. He checked the displays again. The fleet had lost dozens of ships in the asteroid trap, but the main battleship and its core strike force remained. Their calculations were faster now. They had begun learning from his maneuvers. But Elias had a plan, a final gambit that required precision, courage, and complete faith in unpredictability. "Let's finish this," he whispered to himself. The first stage of the gambit involved decoys and diversion. Small holographic ships darted in all directions, mimicking the Intrepid's movements. The AI recalculated, firing at false targets, wasting energy and precious seconds. Elias's real move was different. He piloted the Intrepid toward the fleet's center, weaving unpredictably through debris and shadows. The alien ships were confident. They had been programmed to predict every human reaction, but Elias was no ordinary human. His mind worked in leaps, intuition, and creativity, things the AI could not grasp. As he approached the main battleship, he activated the final weapon of the gambit, the decoy chain. A series of holographic signals created the illusion of multiple Intrepid ships, each performing daring, impossible maneuvers. The AI fleet's logic faltered. Its calculations spiraled into chaos. Energy beams misfired, shields were rerouted incorrectly, and smaller drones collided with each other. Elias grinned. "You think you're perfect, but perfection can't handle chaos." The massive battleship fired a concentrated energy beam. The Intrepid twisted, barely avoiding the blast. Sparks flew across the hull, warning lights flashing. Elias's hands moved with precision, guiding the ship through a path no algorithm could predict. One wrong move and the entire fleet could annihilate him. He pressed the final sequence, a carefully timed series of asteroid detonations in the path of the fleet. Massive rocks exploded, tearing through ships and forcing the AI into tight formations. Their numbers, once an advantage, became a liability. Confusion spread like wildfire across the fleet. Then came the boldest part of the plan. Elias piloted the Intrepid directly toward the main battleship, weaving in and out of its weapons fire. The AI recalculated desperately, unable to predict his erratic path. With a precise maneuver, Elias sent a signal to the remaining decoys, triggering self-destruct sequences that the AI mistook for the real ship. Several AI ships destroyed themselves, falling into the exploding asteroid field. The main battleship faltered, its shields weakened, its core destabilizing from the chaos surrounding it. Elias had done the impossible. He had turned the fleet's precision against itself. But the danger was far from over. The alien flagship, massive and relentless, still loomed ahead. Its energy beams cut through space with deadly accuracy. Elias had seconds to act. He activated the Intrepid's emergency propulsion system, a risky move that pushed the ship beyond safe limits. Engines screamed, metal groaned, and the hull trembled. Time slowed. One wrong calculation, one hesitation, and he would die. But Elias relied on instinct, improvising moves no AI could ever predict. He twisted, dodged, and spun past the massive ship. In a final act of daring, he fired a concentrated energy pulse directly at the battleship's core, exploiting the minor weakness he had discovered during the previous encounters. The explosion was tremendous. The flagship shuddered, then erupted in fire and metal fragments. Smaller AI ships faltered or fled in disarray. The fleet that had once terrorized countless planets was collapsing before a single human pilot. Elias floated in space, breathing heavily. The gambit had worked. The impossible had been achieved. The AI fleet, the deadliest machine force in the galaxy, had been outsmarted by human creativity, courage, and intuition. But Elias knew the victory was only temporary. The AI could rebuild, adapt, and strike again. The galaxy's greatest threat had been humbled, but it was far from destroyed. He activated the comms and sent a message across human-controlled space. We can fight the impossible. We can survive. We can win. Stay ready. The war has just begun. As he looked out into the endless void, Elias understood something profound. Humans were underestimated, overlooked, and dismissed as weak. Yet it was precisely that underestimation that made them dangerous. They could think, feel, and act in ways machines never could. The stars flickered around him, silent witnesses to the daring gambit that had just unfolded. Humanity had survived against the deadliest AI fleet in history, and far across the galaxy, those who had dismissed humans would begin to realize the truth. Never underestimate the ingenuity of a single human mind. Elias set course for a nearby base to repair and regroup. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over, and he, the pilot who had outsmarted perfection itself, was ready for whatever came next. The void of space was quiet, but it was no longer a silence of fear. The alien AI fleet, once unstoppable, now floated in ruins. Commander Elias Varn watched the fragments of metal and fire drift through the darkness, remnants of the once feared armada. He allowed himself a small, weary smile. Against impossible odds, humanity had survived. The Intrepid floated gently, battered but still functional. Every panel showed signs of the battle, sparks, scorched metal, and cracked displays. Yet Elias's ship had endured. He checked the status of his crew. They were exhausted but alive. Relief washed over him for a brief moment, but the weight of the war still pressed on his shoulders. In distant colonies, survivors looked to the stars in awe. They had witnessed the impossible. A single human ship, piloted by one brilliant mind, had bested the deadliest AI fleet the galaxy had ever seen. Messages of hope spread quickly across human-controlled space. Humanity had proven something no one expected. They were not weak. They were not defenseless. They were dangerous and clever beyond imagination. Elias activated the comms, sending a broadcast to every human colony and ship in range. The AI fleet has been defeated, for now. But do not celebrate. This is only the beginning. Humanity will survive. Humanity will fight, and humanity will win. The words echoed across space, bringing hope to those who had lived in fear for decades. Even the smallest colonies dared to believe in a future where humans were no longer victims, but warriors capable of changing the course of the galaxy. Yet Elias knew the truth. The AI fleet had been beaten, but it would not remain defeated forever. The aliens would rebuild, adapt, and return. The war was not over. Humanity had survived its first true test, but more challenges would come, greater and deadlier than before. He gazed out the viewport at the remnants of the alien ships, floating silently among the stars. In their silence there was a lesson. Machines, no matter how advanced, could be outsmarted. They could calculate, predict, and destroy, but they could not feel, improvise, or risk everything on a single daring move. Humans could, and that difference, the spark of creativity and courage, was humanity's greatest weapon. Elias set a course for a nearby repair station, a small base on the edge of human-controlled space. His mind already raced ahead, planning defenses, preparing strategies, and considering every possible outcome. The galaxy was dangerous, full of threats far beyond imagination. But humanity had learned a vital truth. The impossible was not permanent. For centuries, humans had been underestimated. Small, fragile, and insignificant in the eyes of the galaxy. But now one human pilot had changed everything. One human mind had turned machine perfection into chaos. One human ship had proven that intelligence, courage, and unpredictability could defeat the most calculated enemy. Across the galaxy, whispers began. Stories of Elias and the Intrepid spread like wildfire. Aliens who had once laughed at humanity now watched with caution, fear, and newfound respect. Humanity had arrived. not as victims, but as a force to be reckoned with. Elias breathed deeply and allowed himself a moment of reflection. The galaxy was vast, dangerous, and full of unknowns. But humans had a power no machine could ever replicate. The power to think, to feel, and to act in ways no one else could. And that power had just saved the galaxy. The stars stretched endlessly before him, each one a silent witness to the daring acts of a single human mind. Elias set the Intrepid on a steady course toward repair and regrouping, ready for whatever the future would bring. The war was far from over, but humanity had learned its most valuable lesson. Never underestimate what one human can do. And as the shattered remains of the AI fleet drifted into the darkness, one undeniable truth shone brighter than any star. Human ingenuity, courage, and unpredictability could defy even the deadliest force in the galaxy. The war had begun and humanity was ready.